I can remember back to the third grade when my mom told me that my grandfather had asked me to go fishing with him that weekend. And what you need to know is fishing was my absolute favorite thing to do at this point in time. I absolutely loved it. It's pretty much it was my favorite activity. And even better yet, my grandfather was kind of my fishing legend. He had pictures in his house of huge fish. He had all the kind of old-fashioned fishing gear, and to kind of be like him, I'd get all the new gear. I even tied my own flies. And when I'd come back from school, I would, instead of going to friends' house, I'd actually go to the local fly fishing shop and just kind of hang out with the owner that I befriended over time and some of the workers. And it pretty much consumed my life. That was my absolute favorite thing to do. So I was ecstatic when I came back from school to hear my mom saying that my grandfather had asked me to go fishing. And so I had gotten all my stuff laid out. I packed everything up, unpacked it, checked it again, repacked it up, and I was just getting ready mentally and physically for what would turn out to be the best weekend ever. It was Thursday, so I had to struggle through 2 days of school, and I didn't get any work done. I did no homework. I was just making sure my reel was working, making sure the drag was fixed. I needed to make sure that everything was perfect, so I didn't do any work. Friday night, I didn't sleep a wink. I remember waking up. It was a cold, kind of crisp autumn morning. My mom had made me breakfast, and then she drove me over to my grandparents' house in Cote, New York. And when I arrived there, my grandfather had all of his stuff laid out, and I was just getting more and more excited. I didn't know what to do. I was just so excited to get down on the river and fish with my grandfather. And so he even said that we could take the tractor down, which used to be me and my brother and I's favorite thing to do is ride in the tractor. And so when he said that we could take the tractor down to the river behind the house, it set the scene even more for me. So I was riding in the bucket on the way down, and I was just trying to get ready. I was ready to go. But when we got to the river, something weird happened. My grandfather turned the tractor off, and I jumped out of the bucket, started assembling my rod, and he just said, "Stop. Just wait and just look around and just listen and be quiet." So I kind of stood there awkwardly. I was just, okay. While he was just looking around, just breathing and just watching the water, watching the trees. And I was like, "AC, what are you doing? There's fish in the river right now, and I'm not catching them. Let's go. What are you doing?" And eventually I annoyed him enough to stop his kind of, just stop observing nature and start fishing with me. So I asked him, "Where should we go? What fly do I use? I've got all the gear. What do I need to put on?" He said, "Here's the map. I'll show you all the best spots. I'll show you what fly to use, and it'll be great." So we walked on the river. We found what he said was the best fishing spots that he knows of, and here's the best fly. And she's pointing out that's where the fish lie behind that rock. You can't miss them. Just cast there. So I stood there casting all day long, but nothing. Not a single bite except from tree branches and rocks where I lost multiple flies. But my grandfather stood there just observing and never seemed unhappy at any point, and just seemed like he was loving it the whole time while I was in the water, frustrated, screaming, cursing. I was just having a horrible time. And so when we got back to the bank of the river, I was pretty flustered. The day was winding down. The sun was about to set, and we had caught nothing. And I was so upset. I said, "AC, what's the matter? You said this was the best spot. We used the best flies." Said, "Well, I lied. None of the spots were good. None of them even probably had one fish. Those flies I got from Canada, they don't work here." So I was super frustrated. I ran up to the house. I was like, "Ace, you ruined my whole weekend. What do you mean? We didn't catch any fish. I just had to sit in the water with you standing there knowing that I wasn't going to catch anything." So I ran up to the house. I ignored the tractor ride, which was very painful because that's my favorite thing. And I just waited in the house, arms crossed, there's mad. And my grandfather comes back to the house. He says, "What's wrong?" I said, "Ace, what do you mean what's wrong? We just spent a whole day not catching a single fish." He said, "Well, I guess you're not as big of a fisherman as I thought you were." I said, what? I have all the gear. I have all the rods. I have the setup. I've got everything you need. What do you mean I'm not a fisherman? I love it. He said, well, then why are you upset that we didn't catch anything? He said, and I replied, well, that's the point of fishing. What do you mean? And he said, all right, I guess you're just not as much of a fisherman as I thought you were. And I left this being very flustered, very confused, and it took me a while to realize what he was actually saying. He took me down there that day to show me that fishing is not about catching fish. Catching a fish is simply a byproduct to being in nature, being outside, just having a good time. Now, it translates to a metaphor in life. If you're just focused on your end goal and and all you focus on is the end, you miss what's happening all around you. Life is too short. You need to observe your environment and enjoy life, and not just work to get to the end of it.